On a crowded New York City street, where the air buzzed with the impatient honks of yellow taxicabs, the chatter of hurried pedestrians, and the shadow of skyscrapers towering above, a young poor black boy sat quietly on the cracked stone steps of a weathered apartment building, clutching a torn notebook against his chest as if it were his most precious treasure. His shoes were worn thin, his clothes hung loose, and his eyes carried both the innocence of childhood and the heaviness of struggle. When suddenly a sleek black car pulled to the curb and out stepped a man in a sharp black suit, polished leather shoes reflecting the afternoon sun, and a briefcase in his hand. A man known in the neighborhood as a millionaire who often passed by without notice. But this time, when the boy lifted his gaze and with a trembling voice asked, "Sir, can I ask you something?" The man stopped, turned, and for reasons he could not explain even to himself, chose not to brush the child aside, but instead to sit on the steps face to face, the chaotic city swirling around them like two worlds colliding in a single moment. The boy's question was simple yet profound, spoken with both fear and hope. How does someone like me ever become someone like you? And with that, the millionaire studied him closely, seeing hunger not only for food, but for answers, and feeling a strange tug in his own chest, he leaned forward and said softly, "That's a big question, young man, but if you are willing to listen, I'll share what I've learned." To which the child eagerly opened his battered notebook, clutching a dull pencil, and whispered, "I'll write down every word." And so, with the thunder of traffic and the rush of footsteps around them, the man began to teach, his voice steady and wise, as he shared the first truth. Vision. You must see the life you want before it exists, because without vision, you will always remain trapped in the life you have. When I was your age, I had no shoes, no food some nights, and no reason to believe life would change. But I imagined myself walking into these tall buildings in a fine suit, leading meetings, making deals, and though I had nothing, that vision pulled me forward like a rope through the darkness. The boy scribbled the word vision into his notebook and whispered, "So, I need to dream big," to which the man nodded firmly. "Bigger than big, dream until it scares you, because small dreams will never free you." Then after a pause to let the thought settle, he continued with the second lesson. Work. Everyone has 24 hours in a day, but not everyone uses them the same way. The poor waste them, the rich invest them. I use my hours to work late into the night, selling water bottles on corners, running errands, washing cars. It wasn't about the money at first. It was about learning discipline, learning how the world works, and proving to myself that my time was valuable. That work, even the smallest steps, built habits that carried me forward. The boy hesitated, then asked, "But what if I fail?" And the man smiled knowingly, "Then fail fast, fail again, fail forward." Success is built out of failure bricks, each mistake a lesson, each setback a stepping stone. The only true failure is giving up. The child's pencil scratched quickly across the page, his brow furrowed in concentration, as if he were building a secret map to his future. Around them the city roared, but neither seemed to notice as the man carried on with the third lesson. Knowledge. Books were my best friends when I had none. Teachers who cost nothing but gave me everything. I read until my eyes burned, learning from men and women I had never met but who poured their wisdom into pages. That notebook of yours, fill it with ideas, lessons, questions, and dreams, and one day it will be worth more than gold, because knowledge cannot be stolen. It grows with you. The boy hugged his notebook tightly, whispering, "This is all I have," and the man placed a hand on it gently, replying, "Then protect it, for within it lies your future." The child nodded, "And jobs and hope, because giving multiplies wealth in ways money alone never can. A rich man who never gives is poor in spirit." The boy set his pencil down, looked at the man intently, and for the first time in their conversation, did not write, but instead said softly, "May I say something?" The millionaire, curious, nodded and replied, "Of course." The boy's voice trembled, but his words carried weight. You taught me about vision, work, knowledge, people, and giving, and they are powerful, but what about gratitude? What about courage? What about living today, not just tomorrow? Because sometimes, sir, dreaming of tomorrow doesn't fill an empty stomach today. And sometimes courage is all I have to keep walking when life tells me to stop. The man blinked, stunned into silence, for the child's words pierced deeper than he expected, cutting through the polished wisdom he had repeated for years. Around them, the taxis honked, the vendors shouted, the city pulsed with life. Yet for a moment, time stood still as the millionaire realized that while he had mastered the art of building wealth, he had neglected the simplicity of gratitude, the bravery of living fully in the present moment, and the courage that comes not from abundance, but from surviving with nothing. He leaned back slowly, his briefcase heavy in his hand, his heart heavier in his chest, and whispered, "You are right, my boy. I came here thinking I was the teacher, but today I have learned from you. Wealth is not only in the vision of tomorrow, but also in the gratitude of today. Not only in what we build, but in the courage to keep moving forward when the world gives us no reason to. You have reminded me of something I had forgotten." The boy smiled faintly, his eyes still shining with hope despite the hunger behind them, and said, "Then one day, when I am where you are, I will tell another child like me that greatness is not in what you own, but in how deeply you inspire and are inspired." The man reached out, placed a hand gently on the boy's shoulder, and nodded. And that, young man, is the beginning of greatness. As the crowd flowed around them, two lives changed on those worn steps. A child who discovered possibility and a millionaire who rediscovered humility. And as they parted ways, one carrying a notebook filled with dreams and the other carrying a heart filled with gratitude, the truth lingered like an echo in the busy streets of New York, that greatness is never measured by possessions or power, but by the courage to dream, the gratitude to live, the strength to keep walking, and the humility to learn from anyone, even a child with nothing but hope.